Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Looks like we're having a little bit of audio difficulty. Please bear with us a moment while I make sure that.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let me start over. That's okay. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Thank you, James, for pointing it out. Okay, welcome everyone to Crow Canyon Software's webinar on limitations and costs of using Microsoft's Power Platform. We're gonna jump right into this. There's a lot of material to cover, and the licensing and costs and usage of the Power Platform is quite a complex subject, so we'll try to cover as much as we can in this hour, but I'm sure there'll be questions. Afterwards, we have James, who you just heard a moment ago, on board to take a look at the questions. He'll answer what he can during the webinar, but there's also most likely going to be a number of questions that we'll address after. You can put them into the question box in the webinar screen, and also we'll be communicating by email, and we're looking to most likely write a blog or article or email after this that tries to address as many of those questions as we can. I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. We have been in business 21 years. We have been focused mainly on the Microsoft application platform. We're a Microsoft preferred partner in the business applications realm, the business applications platform there. We have applications that run on SharePoint on premises and also SharePoint Online, Office 365. We have a number of applications that perhaps we'll get a chance to take a look at later in this webinar, but they're also up on our website. These are kind of core business applications like help desk, work orders, asset management, purchasing, onboarding. We also have the NITRO Studio, which is a no-code application creation platform, forms and workflow solution that we put together for SharePoint on-premises and for Office 365, and it serves as the foundation for our applications. And we also develop a number of custom solutions that are built on top of Office 365 and SharePoint using our NITRO Studio to meet the specific needs of the customers that we have and engage with. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the webinar and go right in. This is about Microsoft's Power Platform, limits and considerations, and limits and costs. And we're going to dive right in and start talking about this. So what is the Power Platform? Well, Power Platform, most of you probably have a very good concept of what this is. This is a collection of tools that Microsoft has. There is no Power Platform like product in and of itself. You don't just buy Power Platform. It's made up of a number of components that are purchased and licensed separately and have their own sort of world, and they interact, of course, with each other, PowerApps and Power Automate, and et cetera. But it's really a number of components that seems to be growing. I noticed top row's been there for a while. PowerApps, Power Automate, which used to be known as Flow, Microsoft Flow. It's now called Power Automate, Power BI, and they're introducing in the last year or so the Power Virtual Agents, PowerApps portals, and now Power Automate's coming out with RPA, which is robotics process automation in it. So the platform is expanding and growing, and that's good, but also makes the licensing and how to use it a little more complex too, and we'll dive right into it. Now, this webinar is mostly about using it in the context of SharePoint and Office 365. There are many other ways to use the Power Platform. You can use it with Dynamics. You can use it standalone with the Common Data Service and other ways, but we're going to focus this webinar on using the Power Platform within the SharePoint and Office 365 environments. Now, to get a sense of who's on, where to address the content for this, I'm going to launch a quick poll on what version of SharePoint you're using. And if you have time to take a moment to answer that, we'll get a good sense of who's on which version of SharePoint, whether it's on premises or Office 365, and give you about 10 or 20 seconds of the webinar to take a chance to answer that, if we don't mind. It's a multiple choice question, and multiple answer also if you want to have more than one. Some people have more than one environment. Okay, about 3/4 of the people answered, so I'll end it there, and then we'll get going on the webinar because we're really about the content more than anything else. So what I'm finding on this webinar, on this poll, is that 2/3 of the people are using Office 365, and the others are using SharePoint 2016 and SharePoint 2013. No one said they're using SharePoint 2019, so So SharePoint 2013, 2016 is 1/3, more or less, and 2/3 are using Office 365. Good, thank you for doing that, and we'll continue with the program here. Now, because there is so much information, what I want to do at first is give some high-level overview of high-level considerations, because by the time, if I summarize at the end, there'd be so much information, you'll probably be eyes glazed over with and not really ready to hear it at that point, the summary, if you're still on the webinar even, because there's a lot of information here. So I put some high-level considerations right at the top, sort of a summary at the beginning, and here we go. The first one is, are you on SharePoint 2013, 2016, or 2019? That is an on-premises version of SharePoint. If you are, then you cannot use the Power Platform without subscribing to a PowerApps standalone plan and setting up an on-premises data gateway. This is a very important consideration for the people who aren't in Office 365. If you're totally SharePoint on-premises, you would have to get a PowerApps standalone plan, not just Office 365. You have to get a PowerApps plan, so you get the premium connector. The premium connector is on-premises data gateway, is a premium connector. You don't get that with straight up Office 365, as I'll explain later in the webinar. You get it with a PowerApps standalone plan, and I'll explain what that is, in the on-premises gateway. So therefore, this is a very important consideration right out the box. If you're totally committed to the on-premises world, PowerApps is not really a consideration without this extra effort and cost. And if you are in that scenario, our recommendation, my recommendation personally, after being in this business nearly 25 or 30 years, is that there are programs that run forms and workflow solutions, such as our NITRO Studio, that runs entirely in the on-premises world, and it's perfectly suited for your forms and workflows needs without requiring this extra configurations and cost of the PowerApps standalone plan and setting up the on-premises gateway. The next consideration is, if you do get Office 365, if you're in Office 365, you get a limited set of features that come with Office 365 subscription. And there's no extra cost, which sounds great. And it is good, actually. There's a lot you can do within that. But if you do need more comprehensive features that the Power Platform offers, you need to get a standalone plan that includes the premium connectors, which I'll go into this more later as we go through the webinar, but premium connectors versus the standard ones. In the Office 365 plan, you get the standard ones, not the premium. But if you need premium connectors, model-driven apps, if you want to use the common data service, if you want a PowerApps portals, or you want Power BI Pro or Premium, Power Virtual Agents, or Power Automate with the RPA, Robotics Process Automation, those are going to require you to get the standalone plans of either PowerApps or PowerApps portals or Power Automate or Power BI. There's, like I said, there's separate components to purchase there and subscribe to. But with Office 365, you get a limited set of features. That's one of the considerations here. Microsoft itself, and we're referring to this licensing guide, which is last month, February 2020. You can download it yourself if you want, and here it is, a copy of the PDF, for instance. Here it is, PowerApps licensing guide, February 2020. A lot of information in this webinar is from that to help clarify what they're saying there. But they say right on it, they being Microsoft, says right on it, if you need general purpose and full capabilities of the Power Platform, you should license PowerApps on a standalone basis. If you need the full-fledged general purpose business automation capabilities, purchase the standalone Power Automate licenses. So they're already saying the limited features that come with Office 365 may not be sufficient for your needs, and consider if you do need these extra components, then you would need to go to one of the standalone plans. And I'll be explaining that more and more throughout this webinar. I just wanted to put this summary at the beginning. The third consideration, and then we'll get into the individual components, is that even with standalone plans, there are factors to consider, like there's no built-in printing capabilities with the PowerApps. There's no offline options with PowerApps. There's limits to the number of API calls that can have. Well, they're pretty high limits, to be honest, but there are limits. If you do put the Power Platform together with standalone plans, you need multiple subscriptions, and the pricing can get quite complex, which causes some uncertainties as to the cost as your usage changes and you start to implement it throughout the organization. We're not saying here don't use it. We're just saying consider these factors as you do your analysis and cost analysis with this. And sometimes the development environments can be difficult because they're oriented more towards a programmer kind of mindset where you use Excel formulas and JSON and REST APIs and those kind of things. So that said, with the summary at the beginning, not the end, the summary, so that we can like have a context of this, we'll launch right into the individual apps themselves and go through their licensing and usage. And I'll try and go pretty quickly because there's a lot here and a lot to cover, but it's pretty dense. Let's this way, some webinars are lighter, these are pretty dense. This one is pretty dense, I mean. So if you have questions, that's totally understandable. Let us know. We'll try and answer them and get in touch with our Microsoft contacts or MVPs and help answer them. Okay, the first one is PowerApps. Low code, no code application platform, building business applications, kind of like the forms element of it, of the whole system here. And now let's look at how PowerApps are licensed. Now, I'm not going to go into like how PowerApps works or developing it or configure it. I'm really talking about licensing, usage, costs, and considerations of it, not about any kind of like tutorials on how to use it. So I think that's clear. All right. So how are PowerApps licensed? Well, there's two options: the standalone plan, two big broad categories: standalone plans and what comes with Office 365, or what they call seeded PowerApps. In the standalone plans, there is the per user per app, and then there's per user plans. What that means is you can have licensed in a standalone plan for an individual user for an individual app at a certain price per month, or you can have it for unlimited apps for a different price for a user per month. They'll make more sense as we look into it if you don't already. Some of you might already know this, but just I'll go into more detail. And then what comes with Office 365 is what they call seeded. So seeded means that in these versions, there's both columns of Office 365, you get that limited set of Office 365 functionality. And most people that I interact with are either in the education, some in the government, which it is included in the government. I'm surprised it's not listed here in the GCC, but anyway, enterprise, people are usually on an enterprise version like 3 or 5. So most people on Office 365, in other words, most people on Office 365 will get the limited versions of PowerApps and Power Automate. What comes with the PowerApps rights when you do have the Office 365? What are the use rights that come with Office 365 when you have an Office 365 subscription at one of those subscriptions we just looked at, and one of the seeded ones? Okay, here's what you have. You can run custom apps, which are Canvas apps, but not, the blank means no model-driven apps, no custom portals. You have standard connectors, but not premium, no on-premises gateway, no custom connectors, no utilization of the common data service. And these entities, you have some rights of using Power Automate within the context of the Power App application. You can use it within that, constricted Power Apps environment. You can use it, but not outside it. No common data service capabilities, and a daily request limit of 2,000, API request limit of 2,000. So let's get down a little bit more detail. Canvas apps versus model-driven. Canvas apps come with Office 365, model-driven apps do not. What's the difference? Well, Canvas apps is where basically you start with a blank canvas and you can build up the user experience by dragging and dropping, et cetera, et cetera. Model-driven is where there is like a template, almost, you could say, that is there and kind of makes the whole process a little bit more structured and in some sense easier to do, because you have this template to go with, and then you can build it up and work from this already existing template to build your application. So the Canvas apps come with Office 365 and the model-driven apps do not. That's one factor. The standard connectors come with Office 365. The premium ones do not, and the custom connectors and on-premises connector do not come with the Office 365 Power Apps. So standard connectors are usually connecting to some things within the Microsoft ecosystem, some factors in there, and there's also the some of the free versions of outside programs like Twitter and things like that. They're relatively free. And then the more premium are more connecting with Azure-based services, some SQL Server now, and Salesforce, and those ones kind of services you pay for. But you can look at this connectors right here. I have the screen up. I'll bring it over where you can see what connectors you have available just by going to Flow, and you see that there's a place in, well, Power Automate actually. When you go there, it's flow.microsoft.com, but of course they renamed it to Power Automate. The URL still says Flow, but Power Automate is what you're going to. And you can see all connectors, and you can see the standard connectors, if you list those, and then you can see the premium connectors, which are ones that only come with the standalone plans of PowerApps, not with the Office 365. And these are ones you can see here and scroll through the whole list if you want. Premium connectors versus the standard. So there's a way to find out what is and what isn't a premium or standard connector pretty easily by just going to that page, which is flow.microsoft.com, and taking a look at it right here, connectors. Okay, so one thing to change that happened in last October was that Microsoft moved, as they revised the pricing for PowerApps, they moved some of the connectors that were formerly standard into premium, and these are all the ones that were moved from standard to premium. So you can see there's a lot of Azure-based and Dynamics-based standard connectors that have been moved over to the premium category and therefore require a standalone plan. And it seemed like the biggest noise was made by the fact that SQL Server is now premium. SQL servers, of course, are very important, database source, and now it's in the premium category of, and you rely on having that's one of those standalone plans to be able to use that SQL Server connector. Now, on-premises is also another one that's a premium connector now, and as I was saying earlier, if you're on SharePoint on-premises, you have to get the premium version, a standalone plan of PowerApps that includes the premium connectors. It does not come with Office 365. The premium connectors do not come with Office 365. You have to go to a standalone plan and then set up this gateway, or like I said earlier, just use an on-premises forms and workflow solution. Don't bother with all this stuff, because it does require you to put an opening in your firewall and security and all that. And if that fits your organization, then yeah, go ahead. You can set up this on-premises gateway, and there's a lot of information on how to do that. But it does require that premium connector, which is a part of the PowerApps standalone plans, not part of Office 365. So here it says the same thing here. You need to subscribe to PowerApps standalone or set up an on-premises and set up an on-premises data gateway. Okay. So what are the standalone plans? Let's take a look at their pricing. You have the $10 per user per app per month, and you have the $40 per user per month. The single apps, you can run, the single apps, and when you run the single apps for the $10 per user per app per month, you are able to use one app for $10 per user. So it depends how many users you have using that app. It could be 100 or whatever. So times 10. Or you can just go with the $40 per user, and that covers unlimited applications. Now, Microsoft being Microsoft, one app is not one app, it's actually two apps and a portal. So here, the $10 per user per app per month is two apps and one portal. Now, what exactly is an app is, it depends if it's embedded in another app or if one app calls another app. And it's kind of complex, and I don't want to spend a lot of time going into that, but just leave it at this for now and look up the details on some of the stuff that's online here in Microsoft. There's a PowerApps pricing page where I got a lot of this information from, and then there's also FAQs that start to explain in intimate detail. Well, actually, they do even leave some questions open to me, but there is some information here that you can reference as far as what exactly consists of an app. But anyways, the per app, which is really two apps and one portal, one PowerApps portal, are included in the $10 per user per app per month. And then so if you do the math, you can kind of see that if you get 8 apps, you might as well go with the per user plan, which is $40 per user per month. Both of them include the pre-built and custom connectors and the on-premises connectors and the premium connectors. This is over and above Office 365 right here. You can store and manage data in the custom data in the common data service. You get these capabilities, capacities, and you have some Power Automate use rights, including the Power connectors. So you can also expand the capability with this by extra add-ons, extra cost per month of using larger amounts of data if you need to here. And same with the API requests, you can have add-ons that will increase the out of the box or capability of the subscription. So these are the standalone plans that come with that PowerApps offers. And here's what you get if you get the full enchilada, the $40 per user per month per user plan. You get both Canvas and model driven. Now remember, Office 365, you get Canvas and not model driven, but with the $40 a month, you get the per user per month, you get the Canvas and model driven, you get access to custom portals, you get standard and premium connectors as well as on-premise, and you can create your own custom connectors. You can utilize the common data service. You have Power Automate use rights within the app context. You have certain storage capacities within the common data service, and $5,000 daily API request limit. So you get the more or less full enchilada of the PowerApps plan when you get the standalone option over and above the Office 365. So something to consider there. Let's look at the next. Oops, went a little too far. So if you start to work on the pricing of this, you can say, well, okay, if I'm using the $40 per user per month, 100 users, 4,000, 48,000 a year, 500 adds up to $250,000, and 1,000 is about $500,000 per year. Well, yes, and anybody who is in Microsoft licensing would say, but, and they're right, but is right, because there are educational, nonprofit, and government discounts, or you might work something out with your channel. These are just ballpark figures. If you go strictly with the $40 per user per month and start to do the math, and of course, if you go to 10,000 or more users, you're talking about some serious coinage here for using the PowerApps programs. But I'm sure there's discounts and everything that could be incorporated in there. Certainly an important consideration is the cost of the standalone plans. And like I say, those only really necessary if they're needed if you want to go beyond what you get in Office 365, the limited capabilities. And Microsoft does recommend, if you want the full capabilities of PowerApps, then you should go to one of the standalone plans. So anyway, one part of PowerApps now is the PowerApps portal. So let's look at that. These are not included with the Office 365 because they use the common data service, and the common data service is not in the Office 365 PowerApps plan. So the PowerApps portals surface, you could say, data, surface and interact with data from the common data service. Here's the licensing for PowerApps portals. There are 3 kinds of users: external authenticated one, external anonymous, and internal user. There's different ways of authentication. They could use quite a variety of authentication mechanisms, and they give you a use case of a B2B or B2C kind of situation where you know your user, so you can authenticate them through the PowerApps portal. Anonymous users, publicly viewable, maybe for a KB kind of situation. And then there's the internal user, someone in your company who has a PowerApps standalone plan or dynamics for employee self-service. Again, notice here Office 365 is not listed. You would need a standalone plan, one of those ones we just looked at, in order to use the PowerApps portals so that internal users can use it. So let's look at what this says about licensing model. The external authenticated users are per login. A login is somebody who logs in once every 24 hours. One billable login, so you get a certain number of logins per month. I'll show you the pricing in a moment. And then anonymous user is per page view, because obviously you don't have login, so you can't count it per login, it's just per page view. And internal users, if they are on one of the plans, one of the PowerApps standalone plans or Dynamics, there's no extra cost. They can use as much as they want. Align with the app. If they're like $10 per user per month and have one portal, they can use one portal. If they're $40 per user per month with unlimited portals, they can use all the portals that you create. So it's tied into whatever plan you have is the internal use right. So again, there's the authenticated external users, the anonymous external users, and the internal company users, and they all have slightly different licensing mechanisms. But again, with Office 365, there are no PowerApps portal use rights. You have to get either the PowerApps per app or the PowerApps per user plan. And like the $10 per user per month, like I say, and is one PowerApps portal. The $40 per user per month gives you unlimited PowerApps portals. But Office 365 doesn't give you any. You have to go to one of those plans in order to do it, in order to use the portals. So here we go with the cost of the PowerApps portals for authenticated external users. This is per month, $200 per month for 100 logins. No, that's not per month. It's just $200 1,000, 3,500. What consists of a login is like one login within a 24-hour period. And then this is per month, $100 for 100,000 page views per month. Internal users is whatever if you got one custom portal or unlimited custom portals according to that Power App plan, there's no extra cost beyond the cost of that license. So we can look at it this way. There's okay, let's go with the pricing here. I think I misspoke a little bit there on this one. It's wrong way. It actually is $200 per month here. So okay, let me explain that in this one a little bit more. I'm telling you, this pricing is complex in Microsoft. You look at that volume license guide and you're like, whoa. Anyway, so we're trying to figure this out. Any questions, please write us. But there is authenticated external users. That one category of users for PowerApps portal that we were talking about is at $200 per month. $200, you pay $200 a month and you get 100 daily login sessions. Okay, that's what it's saying. So 100 daily login sessions mean, say you had 20 working days, 5 external users, they logged in every day, once a day, all 20 of them, no, all 5 people logged in each of the 20 days would use up your 100 logins. Okay, 5 external users, each one logs in every day. That means there's 5 a day, and there's 20 working days roughly in a month. Would actually come out to be 100 daily login sessions for that month, and you're paying $200. Okay, make sense? I hope. Or you can go with the unauthenticated users and get 100,000 page views there. Okay, if you're using the PowerApps portals, if you want to do that. So then, okay, let me make sure we got that right. We got the authenticated external users starting at $200 per month, and you get 100 daily login sessions for that month. If we're unauthenticated users, it's $100 a month, and you get 100,000 page views. And there are add-ins you can do here. And I'm gonna bring over this screen, which shows some of the pricing of PowerApps portals a little further down in the screen. And you can see that here it is, $200 per month for 100 daily login sessions, 100 per month for 100,000, and you could add on to these as you go. And now they also have this AI builder if you want to. I'm not going to talk about the AI builder too much, but there is that ability to add that on if you wanted to it. And by the way, if you're on this PowerApps at Microsoft.com pricing page, you can get the pricing guide, licensing FAQs. It's a good resource for finding in-depth and more information on it. So okay, now back to the slideshow over here. And we're going to go to the next one, which is, I think I'm launching out of PowerApps pricing, right? PowerApps portals and just going into a general, okay, this slide goes into a general overview of the PowerApps in Office 365. Does not include premium connectors. I'm talking about in Office 365, what you get in the seeded version inside of Office 365. You do not get premium connectors. You need a standalone plan. You do not get on-premises connectivity. You need that online data gateway, which is a premium connector. Does not include PowerApps portal licenses. Again, you have to have the PowerApps per user or per app, the $10 a month or $40 a month per user per app. $10 per user per app per month, $40 for unlimited apps per user per month. To get the portal licenses, the description only gives you Canvas apps, not model driven, daily request limit, and Microsoft of 2000. And Microsoft, again, is pointing out that in the licensing guide, to use all the PowerApps capabilities, you should go with one of the full plans, which is either the $10 per user per app per user per month, or which includes 2 apps in one portal, or the $40 per user per month for unlimited apps and portals. Now, just to catch my breath and maybe your breath too a little bit here, it's like, yeah, it takes a while to figure this out. It's like, okay, $10 per user per app per month, $40 for unlimited per user per month. You kind of have to put all this together and kind of figure it out. So if you work within the limited world, relatively limited Office 360, what you get with Office 365 and the seeded, you don't need to worry about all this stuff, but you do not have, you miss having the premium connectors, the on-premises connectivity, the portal apps, portal licenses, and the use of a common data service and other features. So kind of a choice you make depending on what your needs are in the organization is what goes on there. So there's other limitations of PowerApps to consider here. Now, this is not meant to rag on PowerApps and say it's no good. It has a lot of uses, and it's very useful, and a lot of people are jumping on it and finding it quite useful, quite capable for a lot of purposes. But there are important limits and considerations to consider in order to have a full perspective on what you're getting with PowerApps and the Power Platform. Well, one thing is there's no printing capabilities. This has been harped on a lot in the user voice, and maybe there will be some change to that. But right now there isn't no built-in printing capability. Some people have workarounds where they go through some of these kind of different processes to get it out to a PDF and yada yada. So I'm saying there's no built-in capabilities, and we did a blog on no printing in PowerApps. Of course, in the blog, we're promoting using NITRO Studio, which has a print manager built in, very simple to use. You just create a template, press print, and it prints out. We built that right into our NITRO Studio, just making a point there, that's all. And there's no use of rich XML files in PowerApps. This comes from more of an InfoPath perspective, where if you build business process around structured XML files, PowerApps will not meet your needs. There's no anonymous or external users without PowerApps portals. You need the PowerApps portals to have this external authenticated users or anonymous users utilizing the PowerApps applications you build, if you want to do that, with customers, vendors, partners. No offline usage because it's a cloud-based service. And it's not always a no-code solution. It can get very complicated for power users with writing code, using APIs, outputting JSON, and making REST code. Of course, that's a bit subjective, that last one, as to what is complicated, what is difficult. Some people jump right in and have a ingrained knack for it, programming. I kind of have that, and I know a lot of other people do. But other people, if you're saying citizen developers, you can't expect everyone to have that kind of, I don't know, obsession or oddity of being able to get it right away with programming, kind of something I've always been good at with maths and that kind of thing, and other people I meet are very much like that, but you have to be that kind of analytical, mathematical kind of, you like Excel, you like do Excel formulas at night just for the fun of it kind of thing, So anyway, so if you are that kind of person, then PowerApps is probably pretty easy to use. If you're not, it can be difficult if you're more not oriented to that kind of programming mentality, Excel formulas and data sources and I read a whole book on regular expressions, mastering regular expressions. It was interesting to me. Some people are like that. What can you say? Other people are not. So it's not always meant for every custom citizen developer out there, is what I think. And we talk to people at the different shows we go to, and some people find it very difficult. Other people just jump right in and they get it right away. So whatever, something very important to consider in the limitations of PowerApps. Okay, so now that we went over PowerApps a lot, yeah, thanks. Our marketing person put this slide in here, because what this is we did a webinar last August 27th with Joel Oleson, MVP, some of you might know, and we were he was making the point that PowerApps does not have, it's not meant to have feature parity with InfoPath. So if you're looking to move from InfoPath to PowerApps, there's some considerations that what PowerApps does not have that InfoPath had that could limit or paralyze, was one of the words he used, or don't hold your breath, whatever, of the move from InfoPath to PowerApps. If you're going in that direction, it doesn't have print-ready forms, rich XML, and complex HTML, JavaScript forms, blah, blah, blah. But you can see we have a webinar recording of this, and this is an infographic that we have on our website that talks about this and saying, going from InfoPath to PowerApps is not a slam dunk. It isn't just push a button, and it isn't necessarily, even Microsoft said they're not seeking feature parity with InfoPath. It's like its own world, which is legitimate. I mean, InfoPath was based on an old technology, XML, XSN, and all that stuff, and doesn't have cloud and mobile friendly. And we have a whole series of webinars and information on it, because, of course, we're interested in having people move from InfoPath to our NITRO Studio, which is that forms and workflow solution we have that runs. So we did a lot of consideration of this. If you want more information, go to our website. There's a whole section on InfoPath replacement, and we have an ebook on it. So now let's move into Power Automate. See, I'm trying to cover as much as I can this hour. We're already like past halfway. So let me go with Power Automate and talk about that quite a bit here. So Power Automate was formerly known as Microsoft Flow. The the programs formerly known as Flow. Anyway, so Power Automate, I guess to match the Power Platform marketing terminology. Anyway, this one's a little, a little more fun, you might say, in the sense that you just put all these, things together and branching and all that, and it comes out to be this flow. So you can implement automated workflows of business process and achieve operational efficiencies, as Microsoft puts it. So we're going to look at what's the pricing and what comes and doesn't come with Office 365 with this. So here we have, again, the standalone plans and comes with Office 365. Standalone plans, a little different than PowerApps, of course, because these are users and flow. So we have per user. It's these are two kind of the reverse of each other, you could say. One is individual, one user can do unlimited flows. This is unlimited users can run one flow. Minimum purchase is 5 flows, but so this is user can run unlimited flows, and this is unlimited users can run a flow. And the seeded, what comes with seeded flow or seeded Power Automate, that comes with Office 365 is gives you some ability to use use Power Automate in Office 365. So let's look at that in detail. What can you do with Office 365 with your Office 365 subscription? What can you do with Power Automate? You have unlimited workflows within the context of the Power App application. We'll go into that in a moment. You have your no business process flows. You have your standard connectors, not your premium, not the on-premises, no custom, no common data service use rights, and a limit of 2,000. So you get the ability to run certain workflows within a certain context using standard connectors. And what that context is, use with Office 365. Oh, here's the fine print from Microsoft, you could say. It's Power Automate use with Office 365 is limited to the context of the embedding Office 365 application. Okay. So basically what they're saying is that within the context of an Office 365 application, a Power App application that's running in Office 365, using Office 365 data, interacting directly with the Office 365 application, that's included in it. You can do, but if you go beyond that, if your flow is not within the context of Office 365 or uses data that's outside that requires premium connector or custom data source or on-premises, then standalone Power Automate licenses will need to be purchased. So it's a lot to digest there, I realize, but what it's really saying is if you have a Power App application and you use a flow in it, then you're good, unless it uses a premium connector to go out to like an outside data source, and then you need a standalone plan for Power Automate. And those premium connectors, like I said earlier, now include SQL Server, as well as some of the Salesforce and other paid-for services, dynamic services. So, you got to be clear on clarify what is a standard and premium. And if you need a premium, then you would have to look at a standalone plan, a premium connector. You'd have to look at a standalone plan of Power Automate. What do they cost? Oh, here we go. There's a per user with unlimited flows for $15 per user per month. Then there's unlimited users, but the per flow is 500 for you, 500 per month, and you get 5 flows per month. $5 flows. $500 per month includes 5 flows. Additional flows may be purchased for $100 per flow per month. And it's common. It's something you have to think about, like, what are you trying to do, and is it going to work? And now you have the Power Apps pricing, now the Power Automate pricing. And like I said earlier, if you stick within that world of what you can do with inside Office 365, it's fairly simple. You have the Office 365 subscription, but if you go beyond that and go to beyond premium connectors or whatever, you need to go to these pricing plans. Now this one shows that Microsoft just this month actually added this section here, or it might have been February, what seems like this month anyway, but within the last month added this other section with RPA, which is robotic process automation, and they're pushing that. If you're interested in that, you can go look on their website. They have a lot of information about new exciting use and of robotics process automation and AI. I don't think too many people are jumped on that bandwagon yet. So most of the plans are per user or per flow with a minimum of 5 again here. Of the $15 per user per month or to $500 for 5 flows per month for unlimited users. 1 user, unlimited flows, 1 or 5 flows with unlimited users. Once you get beyond what comes with Office 365. So here's the Power Automate per user plan. Main things here is individual users to create and run unlimited workflows. It's intended to support the broad adoption of an automation culture in an organization, as Microsoft puts it. So it's individual users, unlimited workflows. So what they say is, hey, if you license your entire organization with Power Automate per user, you don't have to worry about how many. It's unlimited for everybody. It doesn't really matter. As many flows as you want. That's $15 per user per month. If you have 1,000 users, that's $15,000 a month. If you wanted to do that, then they could run unlimited workflows. Again, there's discount and volume pricing in that, but right off, going by list price. The other plan is the per flow plan, and it's licensed by flow. Allows customers to implement critical business processes, because it's more like a team department. It doesn't require to individually license each end user that triggers the flow. In other words, it's licensed by the flow. Anybody can use it in the organization. You don't have to worry about, is that person licensed or not licensed to use the flow. They can use it. And this is, as they say, Microsoft says, it's great for departmental scenarios. One power user sets up the flow and shares it with the broader group. So then it's just that $500 per month for the minimum purchase is $500 a month for 5 flows, and then $100 a month for every other one, unlimited users. It alleviates the need to license each end user that unknowingly or even unknowingly triggers the execution of the license flow. So, like I said in the earlier slide, if you put that, man, it goes the wrong way. If you do the $15 per user per month, you kind of put the two together, and you have this unlimited flows, unlimited users. So let's look what it says here in the per user plan. $15 per user per month, unlimited flows per user for that user that you paid the $15 for. RPA, I'm not going into that too much, but it's the $40 here. And I think it's a whole nother webinar, so let's leave that off the plate for the moment. Per flow plan starting at $500 per month. And active flows per user doesn't account. It's actually per flow. So with these, you can use the pre-built connectors, custom and on-premises, which you can't do in Office 365 without having one of these standalone plans. You can create and access custom entities, and you have this use of the data, a certain capacity within the common data service for that. So when you get the full enchilada again, here you go. You have, either the Power Automate per user or Power Automate per flow, one of the $15 one or the $500 per month. $15 per user, $500 for 5 flows. You get, there's no minimum purchase. You can buy it for 1 user. And this you have to buy 5 flows. User license required, yes. And this one, no, because you're buying it unlimited users. How many, you can execute workflows, you can execute business process flows, you can use standard connectors, premium connectors, on-premises gateway, and build your own connectors and use them all. There's none of those limitations that come with the Office 365 version of Power Automate. You have certain use rights within the common data service, and you have daily request limits of 5,000 and 15,000 on those, okay? So then, how about if you use it with PowerApps? What if you have a PowerApps standalone plan? Do you get any right to use Power Automate? Yes, you do. Power Automate use within PowerApps is limited to the context of the PowerApps application. So when you get PowerApps, a standalone plan, you have rights to use some level of Power Automate within the context of that PowerApp application. What this means is that for both triggers and actions, flows included with a PowerApps application can connect to any data source within the use rights of the PowerApps application. So if you have use rights to premium connectors, you can use premium connectors. And it has to run within the context of that PowerApps application. If it doesn't, then you have to go out, the flow is isolated, has nothing to do with the PowerApps application, then you have to go with the standalone licensing that we just talked about, the per user or per flow, the $15 per user per month, or the $500 per month for the 5 flows, if you get outside your PowerApps application and using flows outside it. Of course, all this is outside of Office 365 at this point. Okay, so we're on to Power BI then, right? Okay, so another component of the Power Platform is Power BI. We'll talk about the pricing of that now. Power BI, cloud-based suite of business analytic tools that anyone connect to, visualize, and analyze data with greater speed, efficiency, and understanding. Okay, Power BI, yeah, it's an analytics tool. It comes, the free version comes with Office 365 E3. I believe that, I was researching that last night, and as far as I know, it still does. Microsoft, thing is, Microsoft changes their licensing a lot, and sometimes it's hard to keep up. We got the February 2020, there was a January 2020 licensing guide, there was October 2019 changes, there were July changes. I mean, it's a moving target sometimes to know what is and what isn't included, but they do let you know. I'm not saying they don't, but it does take constant kind of awareness of what's going on and what's changing and what's evolving in their pricing model with the Power Platform. So hopefully I have that part right here. I think I do. But I know Power BI Pro is included with Office 365 E5, Enterprise 5 version. And then you get Power BI Premium is available to any of these platforms at an extra cost. And of course, you don't have to have Office 365 to use Power BI either. So the free version, Power BI free, connects to over 70 data sources. You can publish to the web, export to Excel. You have visualizations that are available in the Pro, are available in the free, but you can't do peer-to-peer sharing, and you can't create app workspaces. With the Pro, you can share your data, reports, and dashboards. Users also have a Pro license, and you can create app workspaces, and there's 10 gigabyte per Pro user data storage limit. So the thing is, this really depends on your need for analytics. Do you need to go beyond what Office 365 gives you out of the box, which is in the E3, the free version, and in the E5, the Pro version? You can always upgrade if you need to. Let me do this comparison first. Free, check, and then it doesn't have enterprise. Free doesn't have enterprise distribution, email subscriptions, embedded APIs, peer-to-peer sharing. All this stuff is missing. That's checked here in the Pro. And with the Premium, it's meant for like more robust enterprise kind of reporting, greater scale and performance, flexibility, licensed by capacity, unify self-service, on and on and on. And there is actually I couldn't put this all on the slide, so you go to powerbi.microsoft.com pricing page, and you're going to find the exact what's the difference between these two, the Pro and the Premium. If that is of interest to you and you want to find out what's going on there, you can. It's quite a long list of features there to plow through. And then you go to the pricing of these. You go Pro is $9.99 monthly price per user with annual subscription, $49.95 if you want to go to the Premium, if you need that per cloud compute and storage resource for annual subscription. So that's something that, Power BI, I'll just leave that less. I won't say it's less important, but most people are focused on Power Apps and Power Automate when they're building workflows. They're not really thinking about analytics till later. In our application building, we consider that reporting and analytics are a very important part of the application creation, application process. The forms we call it the 3 pillars. The forms and the UI is 1 pillar. That's what we have in our solutions. We have the forms and work. Then the second is the workflows. You have the forms, you have the workflows. Those 2 important components of an application. But the third component is reporting, and it really drives continuous improvement if you know the analytics of how the application is performing and where you can improve and get the bottleneck. So even though Power BI probably is not considered as importantly or prominently, let's say, when you're building up an application, it does have a lot of power and capabilities to have reporting and analytics to see how that application is performing, so you can iteratively improve its operation. And we make that a very important part of our NITRO Studio, is that there's the forms, workflows, but also the reporting and analytics component to it too. So not to play down Power BI, maybe the free version is good. Maybe you want to go to Pro, maybe you want to go to Premium, depends on your needs and how much you want to invest in it. So another component, how are we doing? I got about 10 minutes. Okay, so I will go over to Power Virtual Agents, which are a new feature inside of Power Platform. No code, create bots, guided no code, graphical interfaces. It's a kind of like the direction a lot's going with Microsoft, and also, you know, a lot of programming, us included, is towards this bots, AI, you know, trying to streamline self-service so it's more automated, and making it so that there's you know, a question comes in, a request comes in, and it's able to be handled as much as possible through an automated process and bot kind of situation in AI, so it reduces the workload. Let's say it isn't as burdensome to the support staff or to the inside team, and a lot of it can be offloaded onto bots that follow certain standard, you know, software procedures. But it's not that easy to implement in real life. It's difficult because there's so many different variations of what can happen when a request. There's so many permutations and different possibilities of what can go on when a request is entered. I was even thinking, like, you stop at a stop sign sounds simple, right? Oh, stop, there's stop sign, stop. Well, that's easy if that's all there was to it, but there's different times when multiple cars come to the stop sign. There's a emergency, there's a stalled car, there's you know, maybe the sign is down, I don't know, all kinds of different things. Just as an example of a process that's very hard to, seems simple, but actually very hard to automate, and that's what happens with these virtual agents. So I just give it a brief overview here. Most of the focus is on PowerApps, Power Automate, Power BI, but you know, there is movement in this direction towards AI, robotics process automation, virtual agents. I just thought I'd mention it during this webinar and give you a sense of the cost, since we're talking about costs and limits and costs of the Power Platform, and this is part of the Power Platform. So you get $1,000 for 2,000 sessions per tenant per month. That's chatbot sessions with the agent. So, you know, something to consider. If you want to look at it more, you can look at powervirtualagents.microsoft.com. So we're coming up near the top of the hour. So in conclusion, we see we have a number of these components of the Power Platform. We talked about, you know, some of the limits and considerations and costs involved. I know the licensing is very complex. It can be anyway, and sometimes hard to, you scratch your head and try and figure it out. It's like, what? And putting all these different pieces together, like, okay, PowerApps this per month, this, that per month, or maybe the Office 365 is enough and I don't need to go beyond it. I don't really know, you know, maybe some things I'll have to, so there's a lot of like uncertainty and you know, it really takes some in-depth knowledge or consulting to kind of figure out what's the best approach with these things. Do you need PowerApps portals? Is the RPA something to consider? But more importantly, how is PowerApps, do I need a premium connector? Do I need model-driven apps? Is that 2,000 API limit enough? How does Power Automate, and can I run the flows I want to get the processes done? Do I need to upgrade my Power BI in order to get better reporting capabilities? Do I want to start looking at the virtual agents and the RPA? Do I want to, so things to consider. Now, before we end, I want to say the Power Platform is not the only option here. Or there's other options that could run in conjunction with the Power Platform. And being from Crow Canyon Software, I will have to talk about our NITRO Studio briefly. NITRO Studio is a no-code application creation platform that brings forms, workflows, reporting portals, modern UI, chatbots, and database to Office 365 and the SharePoint on-premises environment. So we really have a place in this whole ecosystem of forms and workflow solutions by providing a solution for on-premises, which Power Platform does not provide without that data gateway and the cloud service that you have to subscribe to. You don't need that with ours. You can just bring in the NITRO Studio right into the SharePoint on-premises world and run it, and then also in the Office 365. We feel we provide a very much oriented to a SharePoint Office 365 environment. It isn't a bunch of tools that are like PowerApps this, Power Automate that, Power BI that. It's a comprehensive platform, one price, you get the whole suite of tools that are there, and it's a nice common interface with common interaction, and it relieves a lot of the worry about usage and how you're going to you know, your cost. Your cost is fixed to the subscription of the NITRO Studio because we give unlimited flows, unlimited forms and workflows within the tenant license that we provide, and unlimited reporting and dashboards within that also, as well as we have printing capabilities and other features that Office 365, that Power Platform does. Also, we have a lot of experience in InfoPath replacement or replacing access forms and other legacy systems and bringing them into the NITRO Studio world. the other point I want to make is it's not like this or that either. We did a webinar last spring, called NITRO Studio and Flow Best Friends Forever, BFFs, and it's a webinar. It's on one of our on our webinars page, and it shows that from within the NITRO Studio workflow tool, you can initiate a Microsoft Flow, what they call Power Automate now, but anyways, a Microsoft Flow. So there's this integration between the two, and we have an eBook on moving from InfoPath to NITRO Studio. We did a webinar in January about this. We have a lot of I've given some talks, and assuming these shows go on, but anyway, Sacramento, Missouri, Houston, at these different shows, I'm giving talks on how to move from InfoPath to the best practices for moving off InfoPath. So we're big into that. So there's a lot of intimate knowledge we have about how to move from InfoPath, how to develop solutions inside of Office 365 environment. And not only that, we have a set of business applications already developed, ready to go out of the box, that you don't have to develop or configure from scratch. We're using PowerApps or even our NITRO Studios. They're already there to go. Help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities and work orders, equipment tracking, access requests, onboarding, contract renewal management, document management, HR requests, purchasing requests. And we're also doing a lot in the government space because we're a certified small business working with the state of California and also cities and counties within California, as well as federal government and other states and counties throughout the whole country, as well as the whole world. So, very much involved. And that's the, 5-minute pitch at the end for Crow Canyon and our NITRO Studio. If you want to know more about us and what we do, please contact sales@crowcanyon.com or sign up for there's a demo request or a trial request kind of thing, and see what we have here. Thank you for attending. We have upcoming webinars. We have one coming up on our facilities requests and work orders in March. We also have regular NITRO Studio workshops. We're putting together a Q2 webinar series that we're going to focus on. I'll be doing some webinars in between the visits to the different shows on assuming the shows go on. Who knows with this coronavirus stuff, but anyway, if the shows go on, I'll be there giving talks, but in between that, also be giving webinars. And our team is very accessible. You give us a call, send us an email. We'll be glad to talk to you about your needs, about your interests, about your questions. And like I said, at the end of the, if you have any questions during this webinar, we'll make our best effort to answer them through email or write up a blog and get you those answers as much as we know, because in this subject. So our website's right here, crowcanyon.com, been around 20 years. I want to thank you for attending. I want to say everyone have a nice day. Appreciate you spending the time today to hear this. And hopefully, I really hope it's been helpful. With a lot of information to plow through. It's a complex subject and there's a lot to kind of digest on it. So appreciate your attendance. Everybody have a good day. And stay in touch, get in touch, and we'll help you out more, give you more information. And, it's a conversation we'll have about forms and workflow solutions, business process improvement, operational efficiency using the SharePoint and Office 365 world. Thank you very much. Okay, goodbye.